Representative Cepicky, what do you got going on?
A lot of stuff going on in the General Assembly now. We are in full swing. Hearts are being broken on a daily basis up there, but that's okay. We look for good policy, and it moves on, and bad policy finds another place to go.
Is it bill killing time?
It is. It started. People get their feelings hurt, and I said this off the air to you, and the greatest words of wisdom 7 years ago, it was given to me by one of the representatives. He said, remember this, date your bills, don't marry them. It's easier to break up. And it's the truth. And it's the truth.
When they get escorted out of the building,
yes,
and left for dead outside,
you say, "Well, I'll see you next time."
What are we losing? Does anything come to mind? Or
there's some bills that have to do in education with policy that maybe doesn't meet our expectations of what we're trying to do. Reduce the number of tests, reduce the number of evaluations on our teachers and our kids, free up more time. Kind of roll back. A lot of legislators want to put more things on our teachers to do, and we're trying to play defense on that this year.
I want to back up for a minute and talk about the federal government before we boil down to the General Assembly. Would you say that there's general consensus amongst your Republican colleagues that they're in agreement with the Trump administration's position on the Federal Department of Education?
I'd say probably 95% of us are, yes. Absolutely.
And it's my understanding the manner in which the president wants to do. I mean, I think this was a consideration a couple of years ago that was floated, that the state of Tennessee might become solvent on its own enough to not need federal dollars.
Yeah, we had the ability a couple of years ago. Speaker Sexton convened a committee on it, and we determined it would cost about $1.7 billion net, because there'd be cost savings of things we wouldn't have to do,
right,
versus the things we would. And then we looked at it, and we said, well, let's wait until the next election to see what happens. Well, now it's happened. President Trump has talked about with Linda McMahon, I believe that's who it is, about sunsetting the Federal Department of Education, which I think would be an outstanding achievement, so that we could look at the education experiment of each individual state and determine how we're going to do the things that best meet the needs of our kids.
Well, when you homogenize the system in the manner in which the federal department, and by the way, it's my understanding, tell me if I'm wrong, that Trump's plan would still offer federal dollars to the states in like block grants,
right,
but it would not require, there would be no mandates or strings attached to those grants as to homogenize the system in the way it's been homogenized.
That's 100% correct. The things that are in federal law on students with disabilities and special ed kids, special needs, that's all codified. And so we would have to maintain those support mechanisms. But what it would do is give us the flexibility to let the locals look at how they want to do it that best fits the needs and of their districts.
We talk about, it occurs to me, we talk about within the state of Tennessee creating a spirit of good competition amongst the various systems. Would this not create that same spirit of competition amongst the states?
Absolutely. You would have those states that would be doing it to the best of their ability, would be attracting more young families to come here and invest in our state and our educational system to take advantage of it. One of the things that we have been working on since I've been up there in the General Assembly for 7 years, and we're slowly climbing the ranks. We're right. We've got, if everything breaks our way this year, Matt, I think we can crack the top 25 in the country on our third grade literacy rate and our graduation and our mathematics. We are very close right now. And that's one of the things we're trying to do in the General Assembly this year, is keep pushing forward and making sure that we're doing the things that are going to drive us to that next level.
Where are we? Obviously, special session over and done with.
Yes.
Special session saw the Education Freedom Act passed. Where are we in terms of implementation?
From what I look at, they're looking at emergency rules, so it takes about 90 days from the time we passed it. The goal is to have something functional, hopefully by April, May, so that people can start to apply for those scholarships. Now, one of the things they have to do is get a letter of acceptance from a private school. So those private schools are going to have to kind of adjust about when they have their cutoff dates for their enrollment to allow the flexibility for these kids to apply later on in the year. My anticipation is we'll have more seamless rollout in year 2, because we'll have more time to work through all the bugs that pop up.
But the plan is still to see these things roll out this fall.
This fall, absolutely.
What about other education pieces that you're working on?
So the bill we talked about cell phones in the classroom, that bill did clear the Education Committee. It'll be on the House floor Monday, where we will be put a ban during instructional time across the state of Tennessee that the students will not be able to have the cell phones in their possession unless it's part of their IEP, special ed, special needs, things like that.
Is it working through the Senate as well simultaneously?
Yes, it is. We're doing fine right there. And we had 2 districts, Hamblin County and Warren County, their superintendents came in, and they did a bell-to-bell ban, bell-to-bell, and they said their classrooms have never looked better. Kids engaged with their teachers, kids engaged, talking in conversation. They said they've never heard the cafeteria be louder.
And you're the sponsor of this bill.
No, I turned it over to Rebecca Alexander. I got up against it with some bill numbers.
Okay.
And so we kind of combined her bill and my bill into one bill, and she's carried it, so she'll be on the House floor.
And she walking the aisle?
She's doing great.
Dun, 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 dun. She's marrying it, huh?
Yeah, she's doing great.
I mean, you said not to marry, but I feel like if you get to the floor of the House,
Oh, no, this is marriage now.
we got nuptials going on.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
What about, I know this is Gino's bill, but a couple of people have asked on the super text line if you have any update on the flag bill.
It has not been put on notice yet from what I know.
Okay.
I was scanning that today. We are probably, here's what's crazy is we're probably about 3 weeks away from closing the education committees. We are that far ahead of the game right now. And so what you're going to see here in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see our calendars just balloon up with all these bills. And then we'll file our last calendar that'll shut off any more bills, and then we'll start to work through them.
Do you support the bill?
Gino's bill?
Yeah.
Yeah, I voted for it last year.
Okay. It ran against it in the Senate for some reason, didn't it?
It did. That would be a question for the Senate.
Well, I wouldn't dare ask you.
That'd be a political answer. I'm sorry.
I'm hearing that the governor is advancing, and you tell me what it is, but the charter school legislation in this session. What can you tell us about it?
So one of the things that we want to make sure that our locals had an opportunity to approve charter schools. And that was one of my amendments on the bill, was the first stop had to be the locals. And we've had some trouble with some of the local school boards just being vehemently against charters and everything just running to the state to be approved. Now, everybody's going to say, well, since the Charter Commission was appointed by Governor Lee, they're just rubber stamping everything. That's not true, Matt. They are turning down a lot of these charters that don't have all their ducks in a row. But what the governor wants to do is create a process where if a local has a track record of turning down charters one after another, then they're not getting a fair shake. And let them apply directly to the Charter Commission for their evaluation and still give that charter school, if they've been approved, they can go with the Charter Commission as an authorizer, or they could go back to that LEA and be an authorizer. But it would kind of be not really good for them to go back to the locals, because the locals have said, we don't want them. Then you got to go with the state. And you're going to hear a lot of misinformation about this. I know it's hard to believe, but
right.
One of the things that we track is performing. Now, it's not just are you performing at state average, because some of these charter schools are in very, very bad situations in our inner cities. Are you outperforming the schools that these kids came from? And almost unequivocally, Matt, they are. Now, the Charter Commission, I think in the last couple years, they've closed 5 charters in the state because guess what? They weren't performing the way we wanted them to. So we've appointed members to the Charter Commission that are doing a fantastic job, that are evaluating the benefits of these schools for our students and making sure that we are getting the best performance out of them as we can.
I guess I want to wrap up the education piece at least, unless you have something else on the table on your recess bill.
Well, recess bill has been on notice. It'll be heard in committee next week.
This is a great piece of legislation.
Well,
and I don't like applauding you on most anything, but
it is facing some headwind. Believe it or not.
What are folks saying about it?
Well, some districts and superintendents are complaining about, how are we going to do this? With everything we have to do, how are we going to do this? And so what we've done is the minimum in current law is 15 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm. And what are you asking for? 40?
40 minutes. And they can break it up 20 and 20 if they want, but it's to get these kids out and let them just be kids for a while and run around and play with it. Just play.
Look, I mean, I'm not here to compare children to dogs, but I'm about to do it. So, I mean, if I don't get my dogs exercise, I mean, if kids don't get exercise, I don't even have to use the dog example. If kids don't get exercise, they get energy just gets gunched up. I just think this is a great idea.
Well, as a listener, I can tell when Ken Weaver doesn't get outside very often.
Well, that's true.
He gets cranky and he starts to speak really fast.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about?
But no, seriously, this is a very important bill. This is remember we talked about COGS, right?
Right.
Another arrow in the quiver of education that's going to transform our classrooms. And you talk to teachers across the state, and I have. One of the things they keep telling me is we don't get these young kids, elementary now, we don't get these elementary kids outside enough to exercise. And you know what we have a problem with in Tennessee? Childhood obesity.
Yep.
We need to get them outside and let them play more. Therefore, they get all that nervous energy out of them. When they come back into the classroom, teacher has control. They start to teach them again. They start to learn.
So the pushback you're getting is how are we going to accomplish? But they're required to do 15 minutes a day. Just expand the 15 minutes.
Right.
And where do we take? Well, I mean, sometime. Look, I understand you don't want to take away from instruction time, but frankly, I think it's valuable enough that.
Yeah. Well, the data will show that if you get these kids outside to exercise, to get that nervous energy off them, they come back ready to learn. You don't have to spend as much time accomplishing more than what you wanted to do. It's easier to get it done. When you're trying to herd all these kids in a classroom that are running everywhere because they just got all this energy, and let's face it, little boys are even worse. You got to let them get outside. And I'll bet you this, we'll come back in a year after this bill passes, we'll see better socialization from the kids, less discipline problems, and better academic scores.
You had one more thought on education, did you not? The transfer bill.
One-time transfer, yes.
Yeah, tell everybody what that is and the progress it's making.
So one of the things that we've thought, Senator Watson and Senator Lowe and myself and others, we wanted to have high school athletes the ability to have a one-time transfer. Something happens academically, athletically, they want a better situation, that we would allow them a one-time transfer with immediate eligibility. There are, I think, 4 states right now that have adopted that one time. There are 3 other states that have the Wild West, and that's what we don't want. Texas, Florida, and California. You can transfer anytime you want. So we're trying to just make it one time to alleviate a situation. We have coaches that can transfer anytime they want. Athletic directors can transfer anytime they want. Cheerleaders, band people can transfer and be eligible to play right away. So where we are right now.
So right now in high school, if I'm a I'm just trying to avoid my confusion. So if I'm a quarterback for the football team and we move, I sit out.
Nope, you're good then. Parents got to move. But let's say you go to, you want to play for the team across town, right? Well, then you're ineligible.
Okay, I see what you're saying. If you just want to move schools without moving your physical location.
Correct.
I got you.
Parents move, we're all fine. And all those laws with TSSAA would stay intact, right? But if you just get in a bad situation, coach leaves and they change the offense, right? Or you fall out of favor, or you just want a better shot,
or you just want to go to a different school system.
And what's that called? It's called choice.
Yeah, choice. I get it.
And so that bill, but we think TSSAA on March 3rd is having their monthly meeting. They have led us to believe that they're going to solve this problem internally. So we have looked at the proposal they have. We're kind of optimistic that this is going to happen, which would allow the one-time transfer. And if it meets what the General Assembly is trying to do, then we're fine. We're good. If not, then we'll have to try to tweak it and come up with a better solution.